William Clark Gable, often referred to as the King of Hollywood, was one of the most prominent and beloved actors of the 20th century, best known for his commanding screen presence and timeless performance as Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind, 1939. Gable captivated audiences with his rugged charm and masculine persona. Yet behind the glitz of Hollywood, Gable was also a patriot who served in the United States Army Air Forces during World War II. His decision to enlist was not merely a publicity stunt or symbolic gesture, but a heartfelt and courageous response to personal grief and a genuine desire to contribute to the war effort. This essay will explore Clark Gable's life and legacy, with particular focus on his military service, examining his motivations, contributions, and the lasting impact of his wartime experience. Clark Gable was born on February 1, 1901 in Cadiz, Ohio. His mother died when he was just 10 months old, and he was raised by his father and stepmother. Gable dropped out of high school at age 16 and began working a variety of jobs before finding his calling in the theater. His early acting career was marked by hardship and determination. He worked as a stagehand, performed in small theater productions, and slowly built his resume in Hollywood. By the early 1930s, Gable had begun to attract attention with roles that emphasized his masculinity and charisma. His breakout role came in A Free Soul 1931, which established his on-screen persona. His career then soared, with successful films like Red Dust, Mutiny on the Bounty, and It Happened One Night, for which he won the Academy Award for Best Actor. By the late 1930s, Gable was a certified superstar. The zenith of his fame came in 1939 with Gone with the Wind, one of the most iconic films in American cinema history. His portrayal of Rhett Butler cemented his place in Hollywood legend. Yet, just a few years later, the United States would be drawn into World War II, and Gable would face a personal tragedy that would change the course of his life. On January 16, 1942, Gable's third wife, Carol Lombard, was killed in a tragic plane crash while returning from a war bond rally in Indiana. Lombard, also a famous Hollywood actress, had passionately supported the U.S. war effort and was deeply admired for her patriotism. Her death was a devastating blow to Gable, who had been deeply in love with her. The loss left him emotionally shattered, and many close to him believe that his decision to enlist in the military was driven in large part by grief. But Gable's motivations were not purely emotional. Following Lombard's death, he felt a sense of duty. Though already in his early 40s, well beyond the age of most draftees, Gable wanted to contribute meaningfully to the war effort. He was not content with just supporting the war through propaganda or war bond drives as many actors did. Instead, he sought active service, asking to be placed in combat duty. On August 12, 1942, Clark Gable enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces. His enlistment was a significant national event. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant and assigned to the 1st Motion Picture Unit, a division of the Army Air Forces responsible for creating training and propaganda films. Despite initial skepticism from military officials, some feared his celebrity status might interfere with operations. Gable was determined to prove himself as a soldier, not a star. Gable reported for basic training at Miami Beach, Florida, and later attended Officer Candidate School at Miami's Army Air Forces Officer Training School. From there, he received additional training in aerial gunnery and combat photography. Gable's role was not to serve as a combat pilot, but to document the experiences of American airmen in Europe. He was transferred to the 351st Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force, which was based in Polbrook, England. To prepare for his assignment, Gable completed training as an aerial gunner and learned how to operate a camera under combat conditions. He insisted on flying combat missions to gain first-hand experience. His mission was twofold: first, to gather footage for a recruitment and morale film about air gunners, and second, to demonstrate to the American public that he, a major Hollywood celebrity, was willing to risk his life just like any other soldier. Clark Gable flew a total of 5 combat missions over Germany in a B-17 Flying Fortress. His first mission was on May 4, 1943, targeting industrial sites in Antwerp, Belgium. On later missions, he flew into heavily defended areas over Germany, including a notorious mission to Gelsenkirchen, where anti-aircraft fire and German fighters posed extreme danger. During one mission, enemy flak damaged the B-17 aircraft he was aboard, narrowly missing Gable's head and injuring a crew member. A piece of shrapnel tore through his boot, barely missing his foot. These were not staged operations. Gable was genuinely risking his life. Gable's primary duty was to film and observe air combat and gunnery operations. Armed with cameras mounted in the gunner positions and his own handheld equipment, He captured rare footage of aerial warfare and the conditions faced by airmen during bombing raids. His presence among the crews bolstered morale and reinforced the idea that all Americans, regardless of fame or fortune, had a role to play in the war effort. His military superiors were impressed by his conduct. Far from demanding special treatment, Gable lived, trained, and flew alongside enlisted men. He developed a reputation for humility, courage, and professionalism. Eventually promoted to the rank of major, Gable completed the film Combat America, a 62-minute documentary-style recruitment film that showcased the experiences of the 351st Bomb Group and highlighted the crucial role of air gunners in the war. Combat America was conceived as both a training and morale film. Initially, the U.S. Army Air Forces wanted to use Gable's fame to attract more recruits to the air gunnery program. However, the film became something more, a striking and realistic portrayal of bomber crews and the challenges they faced on missions over Europe. Filming took place both in the United States and in England, and Gable used his Hollywood experience to craft a compelling narrative. He served as narrator and co-director, appearing on screen only sparingly. He chose to focus on the young, often anonymous gunners who made up the backbone of the bombing missions. With a mix of operational footage, interviews, and scenes filmed in combat zones, Combat America brought the realities of war into American theaters and training rooms. The film was released in 1945 and received praise for its authenticity and impact. It was a valuable tool for training airmen and boosting civilian morale on the home front. Gable's work on the film demonstrated that his wartime service was more than symbolic. It had practical value and influence. An often cited anecdote about Clark Gable's military service involves a supposed bounty placed on his head by Adolf Hitler. According to legend, Hitler admired Gable's films and offered a reward to any Luftwaffe pilot who could capture the actor alive. While evidence for this claim is largely anecdotal and may have been exaggerated for propaganda purposes, the story contributed to Gable's mythos and highlighted the symbolic power of his participation in the war. Whether or not Hitler personally placed a bounty on Gable, there is no doubt that his presence in the war zone was known and monitored by both American and enemy forces. His flights over Europe were inherently risky, and his survival of these missions added to his mystique as both a movie star and a war hero. After completing Combat America and flying several combat missions, Gable requested to return to the United States. His age and status made further combat service impractical, and the Army Air Forces ultimately granted his discharge in 1944. He was awarded the Air Medal and the Distinguished Flying Cross for his service. Returning to Hollywood, Gable resumed his film career, but many observers noted a change in him. The war had taken a toll, both emotionally and physically. His performances in post-war films like The Hucksters and Homecoming reflected a deeper, more introspective tone. Though he remained a major box office draw, the era of the Hollywood studio system was beginning to shift, and Gable's roles gradually evolved. He continued working into the 1950s, starring in films such as Mogambo and Run Silent, Run Deep. His final film, The Misfits 1961, paired him with Marilyn Monroe and Montgomery Clift in a haunting story that many critics saw as a poignant swan song. Gable died on November 16, 1960, shortly after completing The Misfits. He was 59 years old. At his request, he was buried beside Carole Lombard at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Thanks for watching. If you have a thought on Clark Gable, drop a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, please help the channel by giving it a like.